specifically if we talk about Gen Z, are they logging off? With the kind of world they are growing up in, they feel that's completely fine. Even if somebody would have given you a comment, you would want to see what they are doing, even if it's hurting you. Because what is the duration that decides that this is adequate and this is ghosting? The brain is so rewired that it wants it again and again in small quantities. From very interiors of villages, there are people sharing nude images, sexual images, text, and the content of it would be troublesome. I would not want to be a teenager today.
Today we are diving into a very hot take. Why online spaces feel unsafe even after logging off. From harassment to comparison fatigue, the internet leaves behind an emotional residue on how we feel, think, and connect offline. Joining us today is a psychiatrist and a mental health advocate, Dr. Rashi Agarwal, who will help us unpack the digital limbo and how do we go on to create safe spaces both online and offline. Dr. Rashi, welcome to Heal It. Heal It एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म है जो इन्फॉर्म, एजुकेट और एम्पावर करता है हमारी यंग ऑडियंस को और खास करके जेन ज़ी को. एंड आज का टॉपिक हमारा बहुत ही ज़्यादा रेलेवेंट है. सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन दैट आई एम गोइंग टू आस्क यू इज, even after logging off, Gen Z often says that they feel drained or they're out of energy, right? So why do online experiences leave them drained?
First of all, we have to establish the logging off part. I do not think in today's generation, like specifically if we talk about Gen Z, are they logging off? Sometimes it is just a change in the screen. So they're just switching off the 13-inch, opening the 55-inch or the 6.5-inch. They are just changing screens. So it's very difficult, I would say, that they're logging off completely or having a complete digital detox. But yes, even if we particularly talk about social media, if they are actually switching that off, there's so much that content or like the information that I've already consumed, it keeps on replaying. Anybody would have experienced, like if you just doom scroll for a long time, you would keep like having flashbacks or even just memories of it. Okay, this happened. You get overstimulated. So your brain is not calming down when it's supposed to. It is just getting stimulation or it's getting new thoughts which are not yours, which you have just fed from outside.
Right. But it also leaves a lot of emotional residue. And when we say Gen Z particularly, they were born and brought up with the digital age or whatever they were seeing and how they were brought up. So this is what I want to understand, that how do we make a buffer in between and how do we bring that in between?
It is completely true. This is a very different generation, I would say, even from our generation, like from millennials, because at least when we were in school or like in graduation, we did not have access to these many screens. There were mobile phones, but there was not too much thing to see on the internet at that time. For them, it is normal. We probably from outside are listening or seeing them and we are like, okay, this is something different what they're doing. But the kind of world they are growing up in, they feel that's completely fine. Since I was a kid, I'm using the phone, everybody around me is using it. For them, it feels normal for them. Like for example, if we take people who were specifically like very young children who were studying in COVID, what they were doing, for them screen was their everything, their whole school life. There are a lot of people who come to us with their children, they like, this child is having difficulty interacting with peers because during the formative years, all they spent was online class. So probably kids in first, second, third grade, now when they come in the real world and they are having this issue ki, oh, how do I talk to these other people who look like me and who are doing behavior like me?
Right. Branching from the emotional residue aspect and coming on to the online harassment, right? It is a repercussion of the digital age. And specifically, I want to understand from your perspective as a psychiatrist, how different is online harassment compared to offline bullying?
It is different. The physical bullying or the school issues, they stop when the bell rings. The child is home, apparently in a safer environment. But online harassment continues. It is in your hand 24/7. Even if you try to log off, you will have that urge again to go back and see what the person is saying, what the person is doing. Even if somebody would have given you a comment, you would want to see what they are doing, even if it's hurting you, because we have that curiosity and there's no way of cutting off completely. Remember, when we were kids, staying at home, there's a limited amount of calls you would take and what your parents would allow you to take on the landline. You would not be able to be on 2 hours on the phone and continuously chatting with your friends. That would not be allowed at that time because we're like, oh, that's wrong. Right now, it is very difficult for parents or the family to manage if the child is actually studying during that time, they are getting bullied, they are playing game, or like what is it? So the problem is there is no shutdown button emotionally, and that's why the online harassment just keeps on continuing.
Right. If I talk about particularly social media right now,
Hmm.
the comparison cycle is something that I really want to touch base upon. It malfunctions our brain as well and the thinking capacity.
If I would want to compare myself or like parents around me, or for example, any kid, and the parent would want to compare the kid, who can they compare it to? The neighbor kid, the relative kid. And the line stops there. Otherwise, off and on, they would see in the newspaper, oh, this kid like used to study under the lamp and has scored rank 1. Like, see, we give you facilities, and this kid is studying under the lamp. Okay, again,
शर्मा जी के बेटे को देखो.
the cycle stops there, right? Now, even if the parents are not doing it, the whole world is open to us on the phone. I, sitting here in one city, in one room, can compare myself to a kid who's studying probably in US or in Australia or in UK. Completely different background, completely different culture, completely a different upbringing, but the comparison stays same. वो ये कर रहा है, I cannot do that. Their education is different, mine is different, their culture is so different. But then again, what is the harm? I'll see that and like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be that. That is the problem. It is so easy to compare yourself to anything and anybody, career wise, look wise, skill wise, because you're like, okay, what if? So the problem arises in what if.
I now want to take you towards the unfinished conversations or ghosting, right? That is something very prominently seen. And why it feels heavier than the real world interactions.
I would say there are both aspects to it. At one end of the spectrum is actual ghosting, which is happening, and at one side, the curiosity and impulsivity is present. Like, how do we draw the line of what is adequate? Replying in how much duration feels fine and feels ghosting. For example, you and I working here right now, we would not reply to people because you're working. Or example, if a surgeon is doing an operation right now, he would not use his phone for 2-3 hours. Even if somebody has messages something, it is not possible for him to take that call that time. So this is what happens. Now, other person can be under the impression of they are not replying to me and it's been 3 hours. What is the duration that decides that this is adequate and this is ghosting? I'm not denying a lot of people do ghost, and it is very real and it is troubling relationships or people today. But what is the limit? So, with any partner or any relationship we are in, it is nice to have this boundary setting or I would say a rough conversation of like, hey, this is my lifestyle. I know it's not that easy. It's very easy saying it. It's not easy following it that much. And this is my working hours, or I'm busy this and this. And okay, so you establish, okay, we are working, we are no more kids, or like we are not in school or not in college. We have proper adult responsibilities. So probably I cannot be on my phone 24/7. And adequate duration for my replying is, for example, 2 hours. So other person also does not get anxious or hyped up and be like just overworking. Oh, why are they not texting me? What happened? What if I could just get one reply out of them? And this is not just happening with Gen Z. This is happening with everybody. We get impatient over one unanswered call, one unanswered message, and we're like, I want this right now.
It's very difficult for everyone to actually go on to deliver the boundary setting. But with endless limit to the internet, the line becomes very blur. How do we go on to understand that, and how do we explain it to the younger generation?
Boundary setting has always been there. Even in the home setup, it was there. But who was allowed to do that? Ultimately, a limit has to be set. Either somebody does it or we do it ourselves. That's why, see, to stop one app, there's new app. Why? Because it's like time locking apps are available. Especially, I would say, exam going students or people who have deadlines to go through, they can set those so that they themselves know, okay, this is my time limit. I would just bring one more thing here. The brain does not differentiate between a substance addiction and an online addiction. For the brain, a hit is a hit. That's why we say, why are you not able to stop? It's giving them those hits. They cannot. It's not like they don't want to. The brain is so rewired that it wants it again and again in small quantities.
All right. Moving on. What are some early signs that online spaces are affecting our mental health? Things Gen Z should watch out for.
Mm. First and foremost, and everybody is well aware of it, is decrease in concentration. Would you be able to sit and read a book for an hour? Would you be able to use no screen for an hour or so and be alone with your thoughts? Usually, this is what teenagers and young adults say, that I sit down to do some work and I literally have to strap myself in the chair because my hand would be reaching out to the device, because my brain again needs this constant stimulation. It cannot do things which are slow. So, what we want is continuous excitement. Anything but continuous change. So, what is slow stuff? Studying, working through a presentation, and what we can do regarding it is doing slow stuff. But yes, the constant stimulation is the actual problem, with reduced attention time and increased irritability. Getting worked up on very small stuff, getting very irritated, snapping on people, and just being like, in Gen Z terms, of being a mess. And you would not feel calm, composed, or be like, I'm processing anything. So most of the reactions are just impulsive.
Hmm. Okay, so I really want to
Hmm.
again take from this question and want to understand, since you are a psychiatrist as well, ma'am,
Hmm.
what are some common disorders that can happen or have been happening due to online doom scrolling or
Hmm.
excessive screen time? The
Hmm.
common ones.
Hmm. I would say the most common one is anxiety. Because if a person already has those traits, or they were vulnerable to have anxiety, this constant urge to see, to know, or just to be somewhere would work them up more, and they would have difficulty in relaxation. In simpler terms, if this was the baseline has shifted here. So if some trigger happens now, it will shoot up again. If this was the normal, it would just shoot up here and it would be controllable. It shoots up more. We all get anxious. Anxiety is a normal symptom, like happiness, sadness, anger. But the heights of it will change. And yes, coming back to the harassment part, there is no control, right? There is so much information young, impressionable adolescents can share, which we see so rampantly, and I'm not talking about cities. From very, very interiors of villages, there are people sharing nude images, sexual images, text, and the content of it would be troublesome. Again, all of this we all are very aware is illegal and everything. How do we make people understand that a 12-year, 13, 14-year-old, this is not right? And for them, it's like everybody in my class is doing it. You just got mine, right? And it's okay. My boyfriend asked me to do it, or my girlfriend asked me to send this image, and I trusted them. What happens if that trust breaks at that point? They then start having issues from that age, developing from anxiety to trust issues to depression and multiple personality issues throughout life. So it's not that simple, it's not that easy. One big major event can change your perspective about your life in the future, also.
Right. A taper down approach
Hmm.
and your take, particularly on peer pressure and the FOMO.
It's very, very, very high. I would not want to be a teenager today. When we go to
In
schools,
India or any other country.
nowhere, nowhere. We should be really fortunate enough. We are not getting exposed to all these things when we had an impressionable brain. When we go to schools, we go to colleges, and we have these conversations and these sensitizations with, especially, I would say, teenagers. I really get scared sometimes that, and like, I would not say this, but yeah, I'm thankful I'm not in your place right now. It's very difficult to be a teenager. All the information you have it, but not the mental capacity to process it. So what happens? The information is coming, it's hitting the emotional centers, which develop much before the analytical centers, and we act emotionally and impulsively. The processing is not developed right now. So you cannot say this to a teenager, right? You would not say to a young adolescent, oh, you don't have an understanding. They will fight back further.
Right.
These all things have to be dealt very softly in therapy to make them understand this transitional phase. The world is a scary place. We are not denying it. But we need to give them tools to manage it, rather than you and I cannot cut off. No parent can cut off their kid from the internet today. Their basic life depends on it. From education to socialization, everything. But they need to be equipped about how to use it in the right way. Taking away their phone or stopping the internet can never be the solution, especially today.
Ma'am, from here, I really want to ask कि your emotions define your personality, right? When you come back home or whenever you are sitting, हमारा mic वाइक सारा हर time on रहता है.
Hmm.
And based on how we are feeling, what we are doing and all, वो सारी चीज़ें हमारी feed में भी आती हैं. So how do we go on to differentiate that reality with this reality?
this is something that everybody says and has experienced. कि our phone listens or our phone gets our data. आप बात करो अभी जूतों की, हम 10 मिनट बात करेंगे, हमें शूज़ के ऐड आने स्टार्ट हो जाएंगे. I do not know the exact algorithm on how it works and how much of our data is accessible, because सारे apps यही कहते हैं वो end to end encrypted है, कुछ नहीं data हम आपका लेते, but we all have experienced it happening. So probably I would say the reason, like, the solution to it can be like completely cutting out the internet for a few hours, which is possible when you're sleeping, when you're having probably a private conversation which you would not want others to listen to. But how much is that also effective? I do not know the technicalities, but it is true. This is happening, and I get it that it changes, it fabricates our reality also, because we also start believing and seeing what's happening. If I would start seeing shoes for 5 days, I would be tempted to buy it. Like, कितना दिखाओगे यार, ले लेती हूँ, मन तो कर ही रहा था मेरा. I do not think there is a completely authentic personality left, because it is every day changing with the amount of information also that I'm gaining, which would happen in the real world also, but to a like a slower extent. If I would be reading the newspaper very diligently or reading these magazines and books, every day our brain changes and evolves around things around us. Obviously, see, COVID changed us to a like rampant extent of how our brain works, how the world works. Similarly, everything changes us, but yes, the internet definitely leaves a long lasting impression on what and how we think.
How important do you think is community in balancing the isolation with the online spaces that the online spaces create?
Oh, very. We are social people. We need people. We need them at home. We need them online. We need them everywhere. I would not say it is equal to therapy, but yes, venting out helps. Or just having a support group of people who know what you're going through. We know of a lot of support groups through chronic illnesses, which is actually what they were like meant to do or supposed to happen initially. So, support groups for, sorry, these are trigger words here, like OCD, eating disorders, and other anxiety disorders, substance disorder. There are a lot of support groups for that where people can go and have this conversation about these personalized experiences which others relate to. But again, it has the pros and cons. If I wanted to go through that surgery, I would go to that group and be like, okay, these are the pros and cons. But if I had an anxious personality, I would see the cons more, and it would make me more anxious about whether to get it done or not. So instead of relying on authentic sources, like directly talking to the doctor or reading published journals which have authentic information, I would be relying on personal information or data which is like 0.1 in the whole demographic. So it exposes me more to the cons.
Right. Ma'am, we are now reaching an end to this podcast. And I really want to understand some of the digital detox methods that Gen Z or the younger generation can make use of to help them traverse the way or carve a path emotionally that helps them emotionally.
First and foremost would be setting time limit. Time limit, not, I would say it is not a blanket statement of stopping everything. It is like, okay, this is social media time. This is my YouTube or browsing time, and this is my actual work. A lot of the assignments, everything, we are also reading and doing everything online only. So this is this time, and a lot of people have reported of having improvement or control through apps. I would probably not use any social media 1 hour after waking up. I would want my brain to slowly wake up, see what's around, manage my emotion accordingly, instead of just opening my phone in the morning and seeing a really bad news happening somewhere in some corner of the world. But it has affected my day here only. Having this natural sleep-wake cycle and having a very, very, very proper sleep schedule. The problem again here is that when we are young, we take sleep for granted a lot. And I talk about this so much, that sleep is so important. Once we start realizing and managing our sleep, it's really beneficial. Having an adequate sleep, and adequate depends person to person, 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever feels fine to your body. And also on the same time every day. And also being little, I would say, judgmental or like paranoid in the sense of taking everything with a pinch of salt. If somebody is approaching me, if somebody is asking this work of me, then start questioning why. That's not a right way to live, but this is somehow what you want to be, or like how to survive the internet. If somebody is being sudden interest in you, sudden flow of emotions and everything, be like, let's take a pause and analyze why. Let's slow down. No good comes out of rush. As I said, the brain likes those hits.
Little skepticism is important.
why. Just question things. Start questioning why this is happening. Okay, if you get the answer, well and good, proceed with it. But do not just get blown away with the wave of emotions or the get overwhelmed with a lot of likes in a day. Pause, analyze, reflect. The price of being the internet is high. If you choose to be that as a consumer or as a content creator or producer, be safe. In the sense, take a step back, be like, let me think about it. Once you pause and analyze, the analytical brain comes back into action, like, okay, let me work through it, and the impulsivity goes down.
Right.
Mm.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
I hope with this conversation, we're in a position to inform, educate, and empower our younger generation.